Hi reception, so this is our new story for the next 2 weeks and it's called Funnybones and the authors are Janet and Alan Alberg. Let's see what happens in this story. There they are, look. This is how the story begins. On a dark, dark hill, there was a dark, dark town. In the dark, dark town, there was a dark, dark street. In the dark, dark street, there was a dark, dark house. In the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark staircase. Down the dark, dark staircase was a dark, dark cellar. In the dark, dark cellar, there was... Look, some skeletons that lived in the dark, dark cellar. There was a big skeleton, a little skeleton, and a dog skeleton. Oh, one night the big skeleton sat up in bed and he scratched his skull. This is the bony part of his head, the skull. What shall we do tonight, he said. Oh, let's take the dog for a walk, said the little skeleton. And let's frighten someone. Oh, good idea, said the skeleton. Now, skeletons are quite scary to look at, so I think it'd be quite easy to scare somebody if you're a skeleton. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton and the dog skeleton left the dark, dark cellar, climbed up the dark, dark staircase and went into the dark, dark street. They walked past the houses and the shops. They walked past the zoo and the police station and they went to the park. Can you remember all those places they've been past already? The big skeleton scratched his skull again. What shall we do now? Let's play on the swing, said the little skeleton, and throw a stick for the dog and frighten somebody. Don't forget that. Good idea, said the big skeleton. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton walked around the dark, dark pond and past the dark, dark tennis courts and up to the dark, dark swings. The big skeleton and the little skeleton played on the swings and they threw a stick for the dog. Suddenly, oh, that means something happened really quickly. Suddenly, something happened. The dog skeleton chased the stick, tripped over the bench and bumped into the tree. Oh no. Oh, what's happened? Look at that, the big skeleton said. He's come to pieces. We'll have to put him back together again, said the little skeleton. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton put the dog skeleton back together. And they sang a song while they did it. The toe bone's connected to the foot bone bone's connected to the leg bone's connected to the hip bone's connected to the backbone. They got everything mixed up. Is that the toe bone? The little skeleton said. Where does this one go? Said the big skeleton. When they'd finished, the big skeleton said, that dog looks a bit funny to me. So he does, said the little skeleton. We've got his tail on the wrong end and his head. Woof, said the dog skeleton. Oh, he's not making the right dog noise, is he? At last, the dog was all back together properly again, and the big skeleton and the little skeleton sang another song. These bones can bark again. These bones can run around the park again, can frighten people in the dark again. The big skeleton scratched his skull again. That reminds me, we've forgotten to frighten somebody. Let's do it on the way home then, said the little skeleton. Good idea, said the big skeleton. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton and the dog skeleton went into the dark, dark town to try and frighten somebody. But the trouble was, there wasn't anybody to scare. Everyone was in bed. Even the policeman in the police station was in bed. Even the animals in the zoo were in bed. But of course, the animal skeletons were wide awake. Oh, I wonder if we can guess what some of these skeletons belong to, which animals. This one says oink, oink. I can see he's got a skeleton snout, so he must be a pig. See if you can see what the other ones are. Are you having a guess? Let's see what happens. Gee up, Nelly! Oh, it must be Nelly the elephant. Oh, good evening. Here's a cheeky boy then. Have a cup of tea. Pretty Polly, put the kettle on, mother. That must be a parrot. Let's ride on the skeleton elephant, said the little skeleton, and let's have a word with the parrot skeleton. The big skeleton scratched his skull. Let's keep out of the way of the crocodile skeleton, he said. When they were all back in the street and when they still could not find anybody to frighten, the big skeleton said, "What shall we do now?" And the little skeleton scratched her skull this time. "Let's frighten each other," she said. "Oh, that's a better idea." "Good idea," said the big skeleton. "I'm coming to get you. Gotcha!" Boo! So after that, the big skeleton frightened the little skeleton frightened the big skeleton and the little skeleton frightened the dog skeleton. Meow! And the dog skeleton frightened them both. Woof! Ooh! Help! They hid around the corners and frightened each other. They climbed up the lampposts and frightened each other. They jumped out of the dustbins and frightened each other. Oh, they are cheeky. And they did this all the way home. And this is how the story ends. On a dark, dark hill in a dark, dark town. In the dark, dark town, there was a dark, dark street. In the dark, dark street, there was a dark, dark house. In the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark staircase. In the dark, dark staircase, there was a dark, dark cellar. In the dark, dark cellar, some skeletons lived. And do you know what? They still do. And that's the end of the story. Right, reception, there'll be another video now with a story map for you to use to help you with your learning. So off you go and watch Mrs Chibbaro reading from the story map. Bye.